All right, welcome back to the Topwater Podcast. We're off the lake, right into the chair, and you better sit down and get ready for the Ding Fest. So we're back again with the Topwater Podcast. I am Justin Ellis, and just to get straight into it, today has, well, I didn't lose any big ones today, which is pretty fortunate for myself, and I say it's pretty fortunate, but unfortunately, I didn't never get anything over 13.25 inches, so I just wrecked. I mean, I wouldn't say I was wrecking them, but I was running through the small bass today, needless to say. I was just trying to run the same pattern, the same flipping pattern, but it was a little bit harder to do just because of the fact that the wind was blowing, and it just made it difficult to detect the bite. And what I should have done is I should have just changed it up, gone from trying to flip to something that was moving baits, and possibly even just to abandon the lake entirely and just head up the river. Because up the river was nice, calm water, and actually that's when I started finding more aggressive fish, is once I actually started moving up to the river. So maybe that was something that I probably should have done earlier, but that big fish was just calling me. So I decided to go back into that pocket again, looking for that big bass, or looking for a big bass back there. But what I had noticed is the water had dropped a lot. Like, we're talking like probably a good like 2-3 inches. And if it's dropped that much, especially back there, because I mean you got to think that whole back pocket that I'm talking about is pretty much just a flat. So if it drops 2-3 inches, that's pretty significant for that sort of area. You know, if there was a lot of like depth change to it, then yeah, I would not really worry about it too much. But with it being that shallow and that flat, because I think it really only gets, on average, it's right around like 2-3 foot deep at the deepest, probably maybe four, but still. If it's 4 foot at the deepest and it's a pretty like open space, well, it's not open because there's a lot of lily pads and grass, and there's a couple laydowns, some trees hanging over, but all that area is essentially just a flat. It's just it's a mud flat, and there's a lot of vegetation back there. There's a lot of bait. I found a lot of bait. There was a lot of bait swimming around. There were a lot of like pin minnows or something like that. I think they're pin minnows, but little minnows, they were swimming around, and you'd hear some shad popping, and you could also hear bluegill popping too. So there's plenty of fish back in there. But I think what had happened is when the water just dropped like it did, the bass pulled out, and I was noticing bass activity towards the beginning of that pocket into the lily pads that you have to pretty much just mirage. I mean, you have to like just dig your way through those lily pads. It's not easy getting through lily pads, I'm gonna tell you. And honestly, the best way to probably get through it is with a stick. Like if you had one of those long, like 6-foot rods that you use for anchoring down in shallow flats and stuff like that, I think something like that would actually be way better than a paddle. Because, I mean, just the shape of the paddle, and even know that if you turn your paddle around to where the bows are facing away from you, it makes it easier to get through there, but it's still a pain. It's still hard to actually manage your way through that entire that whole entire thing. I mean, it's just was such a pain. It really was. And especially since, like, I stopped finding bass activity. As far as, like, when I say bass activity, there was no blow-ups going on. And see, that's another thing. There was no blow-ups going on in the lily pads. So I was really wondering if I should just stay and fish the lily pads or pull back out and then start heading down the river and kind of fish the mouth of the river right there, where I was at. And I went ahead and just made a judgment call and just went, okay, well, I'm just going to go ahead and get out of here because I'm not seeing any blow-ups. I'm not hearing a whole bunch of activity back here other than just bait fish. Like, the most activity I'm hearing is bluegill pops, which, I mean, is a good indication that there's fish back there. It's not that there aren't bass back there. It's just they're not active. And if they're not active, I don't necessarily want to stay in that area if they're not active. You know, if they're not willing to feed, then me staying back into that pocket just really doesn't make sense for me to stay back there. And plus, most of the bass that I caught were actually on the outside edges of the grass. So with that being said, I think with the drop of the water, they pulled out to those outside points and those outside edges of grass. And that's probably where the bass were probably held up. Unfortunately, I didn't catch anything that was like really quality. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the bass that I did catch, it was like 13 and a quarter. You know, I mean, that's going to help, but it's not going to do much. You know, I gotta do better than that. I have to do better than that. And so, I mean, it just means that now I got to fish through the week. I got to figure out sometime this week in order to be able to go out, in order to be able to try to hammer it home. Because, you know, I'm still looking at trying to best my average. And right now, where I'm sitting, if I pull up the coagulator, let's see, we got... Oh, something else nifty I found out about these tournaments is that there's no in-between the lines. So if your bass makes it past... So let's say you have a 15-inch bass, but the tail is halfway in between the 15 and the 15 and a quarter, it counts as a 15-inch bass. It does not count in between. There's no in betweens, because I think the reason why is because there's no markers for it. So it counts for whatever line that it breaks or touches. So if it passes 15, but it doesn't touch 15 and a quarter, then it is a 15-inch bass. See what I'm saying? So it's not there's no in between. It's either 15, 15 and a quarter, 15 and a half, you know, so on and so on, or whatever, you know, like if you have a 12 and it's between 12 and 12 and a quarter, then it's a 12-inch bass. So keep that in mind when you guys are entering into these tournaments and you guys are putting into your lengths, that it's only the line that it touches or it breaks. So if it doesn't touch the next line, then it's a 15-inch. For example, if it breaks the 15-inch line and doesn't touch the 15 and a quarter, then it is a 15-inch. Because I had a bass that was 15 and a quarter that was about like halfway in between 15 and a quarter and 15 and a half. And so I just spitballed a number and they were like, nope, 15 and a quarter. And I was kind of wondering about that, but you know, there you go. Yeah, I got my answer. I got my answer by actually participating. And maybe if I would have, I mean, I don't know if that's necessarily in the rule book or like I kind of skimmed it, like as far as like Like, I got the main stuff, like all the safety things, all the things that are going to disqualify you. But I really didn't see too much on, like, measuring fish other than the fact that it had to be a certain, like, it has to be a certain length, and you also have to have a certain type. You have to have an approved measuring board. So I have a catch board, and it's KETCH, catch. They're actually it's a really nice board. And it's aluminum. It has like rubber ends on the sides. You can you can just plant the fish right in there. I seem to not, like, when fish start squirming and try to squirm out of it, it seems a lot easier for me to actually be able to hold them down with that. Because especially with the smaller ones, I can just C grip them and then, like, either grab the edge of it and, like, pull them towards the edge and just, like, kind of cup them there, or just, like, pull them down to the bottom edge. You know, whichever edge it is, I can kind of just, like, plant them there, which is really nice. But I also like the board because it's heavy. It's an aluminum board. It's fairly heavy. I think it's aluminum. It might be steel, but either way, I'm pretty sure it's aluminum. But it's a hefty board. It's not bending on me, and yeah, I mean, I love it. It's an awesome measuring board. All right, so let's look at my average so far. So far we have 15 1/4. Here, we need to go back. We need to go back. Oh, there's no print. Okay, well, we're just gonna have to do this the old school way. So 15 1/4 plus 15 plus, I think it's 13.5 plus 13.5 plus 13, not 0.13, 13 1/4. We're just going to hit equals. That is not right. I'm just going to use the mouse. Sorry, folks. I'm doing math. Everybody said that doing math would always be bad for my teeth. But once you start doing math, you can't stop. It's hard to stop just doing math. And 13 1/4. There we go. Equals. So right now, and also the last fish hasn't been actually evaluated yet. So this is still just kind of an estimate of what it is, because there might be something wrong. I mean, there shouldn't be. I looked at the photo. It looks pretty solid, but you never know. So we're just going to go divide that by 5 equals 14.1. That's not good. We're trailing. We're trailing at this point. We're trailing by 0.4. Wait, 14.1. No, we are actually ahead. Yes. I take that back. Because last time it was 14.05. This time it's 14.1. So already my average is higher. So that's a plus. So we've already hit that goal. I'm hitting that goal. Got to hit that goal each and every time. Even if it is just 0.5, 0.05 every time. I mean, it's going to take me years before I ever get like a huge bag, but But 14.1, okay. I can kind of rest a little bit easy at this point, just because. And when I say rest a little easy, I'm not saying, oh well, I can just coast for the rest of the. I can just not go fishing for the rest of the tournament. No. But I do think that I need to get back to. I think I need to do two things. I need to start throwing the jerkbait a little bit more, and I think I just feel like the jerkbait just gets me bigger bites. It gets me bigger bites, and I need to actually get up into the river and actually use the jerkbait and see if I can't course a bigger bass. Or there's another spot that I've located that I've caught big bass off of before, and we'll have to see if I can't go and catch a big bass there. It's just flipping is so addictive. Something about flipping is just, it's kind of like topwater, man. It's just like it's easy to just get consumed with what you're doing. And it's easy to just get tunnel vision and just like, this is what we're doing. This is how we're going to win. And it's just like, you know what? I think need to kind of take a step back, kind of reevaluate. And I think the evaluation is that I don't necessarily need to be flipping all the time. I think that has produced decent sized bass, but I think a better result would be to get the jerkbait out and start using the jerkbait around some of these places, and especially with these deeper holes, and especially now that the water is coming down the way it is. So now we're really getting into that summer pattern. So not only is it hot, but now the water level is dropping off. So that just means that all the bass are going to start pulling off to deeper water or pulling off to the edges of stuff. So I need to focus on the edges of grass lines that connect to deep water. Also, I need to start focusing on just deep water. Maybe just pull out a square bill and a crankbait, maybe a deep diving crankbait, and actually get out there and utilize a deep diving crankbait in order to, catch something of like something that's bigger than, 14 inches. Because that's really what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get all my bass over 14 inches. I really would like to have a stringer of bass that has 15 inches and above. Like, that's really what I would like to have is nothing but 15-inch and above bass. But unfortunately, I haven't hit that mark yet, and I don't know if it's necessarily because of the area I'm fishing. And it may be something to where I need to go up the river and start looking and see up the river. There's spotted bass too. There's some pretty decent sized spotted bass up that river. I just have to hook into them. Now I also haven't hooked into any sort of smallmouth, but I have caught a couple of smallmouth up that river. But I haven't really just specifically targeted smallmouth. And, maybe that's something that I need to do. Maybe that's something to where I need to go and just, like, make sure that I pack light and go up the James and just really get as far up there as I can, and then just start portaging through the little different holes. And as I portage, I'll just fish those holes and and try to do the best I can. But if I can't hook into like some decent bass, I mean, right now I've already hit my goal. So now it's about pushing that marker up, and I just need to do that. But almost a weight's been kind of lifted off of me, especially since I hooked into those two 15-inch bass. Those two 15-inch bass really just kind of pushed the number a little bit. So I'm really glad that I actually got those in in the boat, on the board, measured, and they went through. So, I mean, that's good. That's really good. But moving forward, I think a really good thing to do is just like I said, I got to use more big bass tactics. What I should do is get this dude back out there, this guy right here, the Huddleston, but I backlashed my reel so freaking bad that I've been kind of worried about taking it back out. But what I do have an ugly stick catfishing rod, which I think that would be better for this, just because it's actually meant for it. So what I might do is I might just take the reel off my frog rod and put it onto that big stick and huck this dude around and see if I can't get, maybe a 4, 5, 6, 7. Dude, if I caught like a 6-7 pound bass, whoo, doggy, that would be a rush. That would be the thing to do. I would actually really like to do that. I would really like to catch a big bass. I would really like to. I'm such a goober. But I need to break that thing back out, because I mean I haven't really chucked it. I haven't played with it. I haven't done anything with it. I hucked it once and it was cool. I hucked it again and I backlashed so bad that I literally had to take a razor and just cut the line as much as possible and just into the reel. Just keep cutting down. And just pulling out strands. Just cut down, pull out strands. Cut down, pull out strands. It was so bad. Oh, it was so bad. I have never backlashed that bad before. Like, there's only been like a couple times where I backlashed and went, okay, well, I'm going to have to cut a string or two. I'm going to have to cut something. And there's no way I'm going to be able to get it out without cutting something. But to cut everything, I mean, I had to have made, the amount of just loose strands that I was having to pull off of there just because of the cuts that I was having to make. Because it wasn't just like, oh, here's one, all right, pull that out, and now we can undo the rest. No, it was, you cut this, and okay, we're cutting some more. Okay, well, we're going to cut through these 5-6 strands. And it's just, it was such a nightmare. It was such a nightmare to where I just wanted to I wanted to throw the reel away. But I'm not going to do that because that's the most expensive reel I actually have. I'm not going to throw that reel away. But another good news, if you want to say good news, I finally got a reel that I ordered. It was called the Shanghai Storm. And I ordered it back in like January. I think I ordered it in January. It's been like 6 months. It's been like 6-7 months since I've ordered that thing. I think it's been 6 months since I've ordered that thing. And it finally got to me. I completely forgot about it. And I saw it on my doorstep, and I was like, oh, it's this thing. And then I get it in, and I'm going to tell you, it's not that great. I mean, it's a cheap reel. I mean, you can kind of tell it. It already kind of knocks a little bit. It's not the most tuned. You can't, it's not the best. It's not the best. Like, I thought, oh, this looks nice. But, you do pay for what you get. And what it is it's, because, all right, if I had to rank it, like, compared to the SLX, so I've bought two different I've bought two different SLXs, and comparing those to this, I mean, it's almost night and day, like, different. Like, this, like, that one feels better. Like, the Shanghai Storm feels better than, like, the Bass Pro, like, special that you get from Bass Pro. You can get them at the outlet. They're, like, $40-$50. It feels better than that. But it doesn't feel good. Like, I don't have confidence in it. Like, it's not tight. It's not like quality. Like, it's good, but I don't know if it's worth the price. I don't know if it's worth $100. I think it's really more worth like $65, $70. Like, if you said that, like, if I bought this reel for like $70, $75, I'll say 75 max. I'll give the leeway of, 75. I think that's a fair price for this reel. But $100, I can buy better reels at $100. And I can buy name brand reels that are at $100. So this reel, don't buy it. Don't buy it. For one thing, it's coming from China, so that way it's going to take fucking forever. And even if it doesn't take forever, it's not the best reel in the world. Now, I do like the way it looks. It looks nice. It's clean. I like the cork handles. I like the oversized handle. But it doesn't get me up in the morning. Like, that reel is just like, I can tell this is a budget reel. Like, it's a little loose on the handle. Like, there's a little play with it. Now, I don't know if that's necessarily a design flaw, or maybe it was mine because it was in shit. But see, the box wasn't all banged up. It wasn't all fucking banged up when I got it. So I can't say that it was shipping damage that is the reason why it's a little loose. The handle's a little loose. I mean, that handle is just, it feels like nothing. Like, I don't feel any sort of response to it. Like, there's no feedback. I'm not feeling anything. It's just like, it's just, you want to have a little bit of feedback. That, and also something I don't like about the reel is that when you turn it, there's a little bit of that sort of turn back. There's that little bit of play backwards. A little bit. I mean, it's not a lot. It catches. But there's a little bit of turn back. And what I've noticed with reels that have that little bit of turn back, what happens is sometimes they can be bounced, and that reel can actually start going backwards. And that's what's happened with my Bass Pro reels. Those Bass Pro reels, if you hit them backwards just right, they'll actually start spinning backwards and start just spooling out line. So there's no stop. There's no real stop like that. You can come across that. For some reason, you can go past that stop on those outlet Bass Pro reels. Which, I mean, if that's all you can afford, hey, go for it. I caught an 8-pound bass on one of those. So you can catch some big bass on those. Just remember, when you're catching those big bass, to hold on to that reel, so that way when you set the hook, it doesn't just start going backwards on you. And like I said, I had an issue with them. I had an issue with them because of that. And a lot of it was getting hung up into stuff and trying to, like, pop it out. And that's probably why, like, it does that, is because I would try to pop it out, pop my lure out whenever it gets hung up into rocks. So that's one of the techniques that you can do. If your bait gets caught up in the rocks, one of the things you can do is you can hold on to your rod and you can just basically hammer fist the end of the rod. So you just pop. And what it does is it causes the rod to flip because your hand acts as a fulcrum. And it causes the rod to load up like really instead. So basically you're doing, instead of like doing this, like, you know, like an idiot to where you're just like, yeah, and you're just trying to yank it out. What it'll do is it'll give it a sharp pop. Because when you're doing this, a lot of the times you're pulling it towards you. When you pop it, most of the time, you're not pulling it towards you. You're actually just using that fulcrum, and it'll actually try to like lift it up a little bit more than just pull it towards you. Plus, it's a sharper action. It's a sharper motion. So sometimes it'll actually like pop it right out. And you pop it right out, sometimes you can get eaten by, like, bass will come by and just, bam, just rail that. But I noticed with those Bass Pro reels is you'll try to do that, you'll try to pop it, and those reels will just start rolling backwards. And just whoop, and you have an incredible bird's nest. It looks worse than what it actually is. Sometimes. I've had one to where I literally did just cut the crap out of it. But it wasn't as bad as the Huddleston backlash. The Huddleston backlash was way worse. It was way worse. Because the one thing that you guys can't feel is the weight of this thing. This thing is unbelievably heavy for a bait. I have never thrown a bait that is this heavy that has been like an artificial bait. Like, I've thrown baits that are this heavy, like rigs to where you have a 3-ounce sinker plus a live, like, bluegill on it, and you have to, like, lob that dude out there. And that's what you have to do. You have to lob them on out there. But when you do, you just got to, like, pinch down onto that spool. So that way, when it's going out, you're just breaking the crap out of it. So it's not going to backlash. At least when it first gets going. Because that's the most important part. When it first gets going. Because when it first starts flying through the air, what you need to do is make sure when that line starts speeding up, that your line that's going out and the line that's coming off the reel are going at the same speed. Because if they're going at the same speed, then you get maximum distance. Whereas if you throw it out and you crush that reel as much as possible, what's going to happen is it's going to slow this down. So the line that's coming off the reel versus the line that's coming off the bait, like with the bait, it's going to slow it down. Because the bait's wanting to go faster, has more momentum, and now you're slowing that momentum down. But the opposite way is the backlash. So you have to get it. It's about getting it just right. It's about getting it just right, and I think the way I'm going to get it just right with this is to actually utilize my ugly stick and to actually utilize the my catfishing rod. It's a catfishing rod, actually. I mean, but not only is it a catfishing rod, but it has a pretty decent action to it. Like, it has a pretty moderate action. It's like 7.1, 7.2, something like that. But it has a long back handle to it. And I think by taking that rod and putting the 13 fishing, was it TSX? I'm going to have to look this one up. Let's see, Google 13. Not Fade to Black. Well, which Fade to Black, dude, that's a great flipping rod. I have been using that for my flipping stick, and I have absolutely just fallen in love with that rod. I have that paired up with the Shimano SLX DC, and I cannot be happier. Oh, I did lose a really quality fish. I had one hit on a chatterbait, and I think my drag was just a little bit too loose, and I couldn't turn him, and he buried himself into grass and got off. So, there's that. Yeah. So it's kind of a tit for tat sort of thing. Like I didn't want my drag to be so heavy to where if I caught something that is decent size, but I had it a little bit too loose. I just had it a little bit too loose. Because I will say, the jackhammer comes with a very, very sharp hook, and it has stayed sharp for a multiple fish. Like, today, I had that thing stick in my finger. I mean, you probably won't be able to tell it, but basically right there on the finger. Just by just touching it, it's just like, boop. And I've caught multiple fish off that, and it's still sharp as balls. But let's see, maybe it's the TXZ. I think it's the TXZ. Oh yeah, it is. So yeah, I have the 13 Fishing TXZ, which is a $330 reel, mind you, $330 reel. Boss move getting that. And I got the oversized silicone grip handles onto it, and I love those handles. I am absolutely a fan of those handles. No ways. Okay, never mind. I was like, no way that reel's $100. Academy's over here selling fake news. But yeah, I got the low profile $330 reel. It's nice. It is a nice reel, by the way. If you guys have the money to spend on a reel that you can just horse fish with, I have horsed fish with this reel, and I have not had a problem with it at all. And the only problems I ever had with this reel was just pure ignorance. And that's really what it is. It's never been the reel's fault at this point. It's just been whether or not I actually have it set up right. But that was the reel that I backlashed like a boss. I backlashed that so bad. I can't believe I backlashed it like I did. But I did. And it's now it's history. Now it's forever in stone. Especially now since there's 3 reviews. Oh, there's only 3 reviews on this thing? I should put a review out there on it. All of them 5 stars. This reel looks sweet, performs like a dream, and has a ton of beef behind it and backing up those look. What? Ton of beef behind it to backing up those look. That's probably not the best one to actually put out there on the forefront. You need a little bit better English there, buddy. I have used it to pull both freshwater and saltwater, and I feel like it pulls it. Okay. I feel like I could pull in a great white with this thing. Jesus. Somebody needs to put a better review out there. I think I've done a better review. Maximum drag, 22 pounds. Woo! That's a boss of a reel. If I haven't ever seen one, that's pretty badass. But I mean, I gotta say, I'm very, very like in love with this reel. I'm very down with this reel, which actually, hopefully, here coming up in a couple weeks. Let's see, on the 28th or 29th of this month. I think it might be the 29th. 29th. I should be going down to Norfolk Lake and doing some striper fishing. We should put some bass tackle up to the I don't want to take my heavy duty fishing tackle, but it's just like what I might do is I might just take the HUD. Because that right there might be able to catch a big striper. I got a HUD. I might just order a glide bait. I already have one glide bait. It's the Bass Pro brand, but I mean, it still does the trick. I had a big bass follow that thing. I mean, that thing had to be like at least 5 pounds. It looked like it was 5 pounds. So it's probably like 4. Just because of the water, because the water honestly just kind of makes it look like it's not as big as it is. But, all right. So, this has come to the end of the podcast. And, yeah, there's been ups and downs to this journey. There's been good days. There's been bad days. There's been the days that, shit. I mean, like I said, I got off the water today. I mean, I just wrecked some dinks today. I mean, the biggest bass I caught today was 13 1/4 inches. If that tells you something. So, there's days to where you're going to go out there and you're going to grind out very little. And there's going to be days to where you go out there and you almost can do no wrong. But you should always strive to understand why the days that you go out there that you did no wrong and understand why those days were. I mean, think about the conditions, think about everything that was going on, think about the water clarity, think about all the different factors that were happening. And that's really going to key you in to some sort of pattern. Because, yes, I did get onto a pattern, but I wasn't catching quality fish. But I was catching quality fish on the same pattern before. So, what that means is that something changed. So that has to be taken into account, and that has to be monitored. You have to understand the causes and effects of things. You have to understand that there is factors that will play into it. And if I could give you guys the best advice I have yet to hear, there's a video. Chad Hoover put it out. It's the 60-30-10 rule. 60% is knowledge, 30% preparation, 10% luck. I mean, just go and watch that video. If you watch the 60-30-10 rule, I mean, it's applicable to more than just fishing. It's not just a fishing rule. It's something that you could take and you can apply it to other things in your life. You can actually take that 60-30-10 rule and apply it to a business. You can take that 60-30-10 rule and apply it to an interview. You could take that rule and apply it in a lot of different places. So that rule is an actual, like, it's more than just a fishing logic sort of thing, you know? It's more than just that. So I really try to put out there that you need to learn as much as possible, and you need to understand that it's okay to not know something, but as long as you're willing to learn it. It's not okay to not know something and then just to dismiss it because you don't know it or you don't understand it. That's not a good idea. You know, that's when you need to look at yourself and think, this is how I'm going to better myself. And that's what I want you guys to do. I want you guys to be better fishermen. I want you guys to be better fisherwomen. I want you guys to get out there and feel the tug. I want you guys to get those lines wet. You know, today I walked into Academy and saw that their fishing department has been wrecked. Like, there's hardly any baits that are sitting out in the Academy that's in my town. And I feel like that is a good thing. Like, it should, like, as much as I would love to walk in and see baits everywhere and, I have all different varieties, when I walk in and see that they have been wrecked, it makes me feel even better. And it actually makes me feel like, hey, like, this is, I mean, I hope that this is contributing to that. I hope this is causing you guys to go out there and actually buy baits and buy these products and get out there and get fishing and putting fish into your boat and trying, figuring it out. I mean, it's not like playing checkers. It's not even like playing chess. Like, at least chess is in a single environment that there's no outside factors that are being played into the game of chess. This is the whole world being exhibited. This is wild. This is the wild world that we are putting ourselves a part of. And to understand it and to know it takes a lifetime. And I've barely scratched the surface. And starting into it, it's a hard thing to really get. It's overwhelming. And I that's why I want to be as genuine as possible. I don't want to sell you a product. Like, I want to give you good advice. What I want to do is give you the advice that I wish I had, and to give you something that I wish that I could have used whenever I first started getting back into fishing, or whenever I was out fishing with my dad. The stuff that I wish my dad would have told me, or the stuff that I learned that my dad didn't tell me. Like, there's things that you learn along the way, but there's no way to know them until you actually learn them, or until somebody tells you. And that's the two ways to learn. You can learn from your own mistakes, which is a very valuable thing. Learn from your own mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. That as long as you understand and know the effects of your mistakes, it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to be wrong, as long as you understand why you were wrong. And then to learn from other people's mistakes. And one of the one of the most profound things that my father ever told me was learn from my mistakes. Learn from other people's mistakes. Because when you learn from other people's mistakes, you don't make those mistakes. Then you don't have to make that mistake, and you don't have to feel the repercussions, and you don't have to endure everything that went along with that mistake. Because you already know what it's like to make a mistake. Don't make the same mistake that somebody else has made, as long as you can learn from their mistakes. So if the biggest thing that I could tell you guys today, to be mindful of the actions that you make and to understand the consequences of those actions, because that is going to make you a better fisherman. And then to understand and to be mindful of the mistakes that are made by other fishermen, so that ways you don't make the same mistakes that they made. So that ways it'll put you ahead of the curve. It'll put you in a position to where you're putting fish in the boat. And then just have fun. Have fun. Have fun with it all. Just enjoy yourself. Enjoy the time. Enjoy the time with family. Enjoy the time with friends. Enjoy the time with the outdoors. Maybe it's the silence, the solitude. Maybe it's the interactions with people. Like today, I had 2 different conversations with people about one guy. He talked about catching a big crappie that he thought about keeping in pan frying. And another guy, I talked to him about anchor trolleys on a kayak. Information is free. It's okay to give information out. It's okay to be a part of the community. Because that's what we are. We're a community. We're a fishing community. And I think with the fishing community, it's all arms open. Because it doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, where you've been, what language you speak. It doesn't matter. It really does not matter. Because guess what? If you can't catch a fish, you can learn how. And just like how fighters can translate what they're doing to somebody that doesn't speak their language without having to have any sort of translator, you can do the same. It's a universal thing. Fishing is universal. Hunting is universal. This is something that transcends any sort of social boundaries, any sort of social barriers, anything like that. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who you are. What it matters is what you do. It matters about it matters about the actions that you take. It just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. And that's why I say the fishing community is so great. Because it's just arms open. It's just arms open. Just get out there and fish. If you're willing to get out there and fish and you're willing to do it, then you're accepted. That's all it is. That's all it takes. You don't have to do something grand. You don't have to be this great person. You don't have to be this awesome thing and doing all this stuff and have all these sponsors. You can just be a regular Joe. You can be a regular guy. And that's all that matters. All it matters is that you are who you are. That's all that matters, is that you are the individual who you are. That's it. That's all that matters. And with that being said, I hope you guys have had a great time. Because I mean, I really do have a fun time doing these podcasts, and hopefully here in the near future, probably after the striper vacation, a little bit of stripering. That's some nice sexy stripers. I'm wanting to get my dad back in here and have him on again, and have him talk more about fishing stories and growing up and doing different stuff, and having him back in here. And I can't wait until I can get him back in here. I'm going to talk to him more about that and see what we can't just lock down on that, which would be cool. But also at the same time, I can't wait until the next podcast, because the next podcast is, well, in a week. And it's probably going to be, let's see, if I look at the dates right, let's see, the 21st is on okay, so I got a week and 3 days to upgrade my bass, or upgrade my limit that I got going on. So we'll see how that works out. Hopefully I can do well. Hopefully I can do a little bit of upgrading. And I hope you guys are having a great night. I hope you guys caught some big bass, or maybe some small bass, maybe some panfish, maybe some catfish. I don't care. I hope you guys were out there fishing. Get your lines wet. You don't catch fish with dry lines. So get out there, get fishing, get out there, and get after it. I'm Justin Ellis, and I'll see you out on the water.